You need to step aside, sweetheart. This line is for paying customers, not staff family members looking for a handout. The words hung in the recycled air of JFK's Terminal 4 like a slap to the face. Jessica, the senior flight attendant, didn't just block the boarding pass scanner. She blocked Maya's dignity. She smirked, scanning Maya's hoodie and worn sneakers with a look of pure disdain, completely unaware that the little girl she was humiliating didn't just hold a ticket, she held the deed to the entire airline. In 10 minutes, Jessica would wish she had never woken up today. But by then, it would be too late. The automatic sliding doors of John F. Kennedy International Airport parted with a hiss, admitting a gust of humid July air and Maya Sterling. At 22, Maya didn't look like the heiress to an aviation empire. She looked like a college student halfway through a gap year, which, to be fair, was exactly what she was. She wore an oversized, vintage gray hoodie from a thrift store in Brooklyn, black leggings that had seen better days, and a pair of white sneakers scuffed with the dust of 3 different continents. Her hair, a riot of dark curls, was pulled back into a messy bun, held together by a single, overworked hair tie. Over her shoulder, she slung a battered canvas duffel bag. It was a stark contrast to the sleek Rimowa suitcases rolling across the polished floors around her, guided by men in Italian suits and women in Louboutins. Maya adjusted the strap on her shoulder and checked the time on her phone. She was early. Her father, Reginald Sterling, founder and CEO of Sterling Horizon Airways, had insisted she fly out to London for the board meeting, not to participate, but to observe. "It's time you saw the family business from the clouds down, Maya," he'd said in his gravelly baritone. Not just the numbers on a spreadsheet. He was supposed to meet her at the lounge, but a text message flashed on her screen. "Running late with the lawyers. Bored without me. I'll meet you in 1A. Love, Dad." Maya sighed. She actually preferred flying economy. She liked the anonymity of it, the shared camaraderie of complaining about legroom. But today, she was in first class, seat 1B, right next to the boss. She navigated the chaotic ecosystem of Terminal 4, bypassing the snaking lines of the economy check-in. She headed toward the Sterling Horizon dedicated first-class concourse, a velvet-roped area that promised champagne before security and a concierge named David who usually had a hot towel ready before you could say passport. However, David wasn't at the desk today. In his place stood a woman Maya didn't recognize. She was blonde, immaculately groomed, with a uniform so crisp it looked like it could cut skin. Her name tag, pinned perfectly straight, read Jessica, Senior Purser. She was typing furiously on a computer, her perfectly manicured nails clicking like hail on a tin roof. Maya approached the desk, offering a tired but polite smile. "Hi there. Checking in for flight SH001 to Heathrow." Jessica didn't look up. She finished typing a sentence, hit enter with a flourish, and then slowly, agonizingly, raised her eyes. She scanned Maya from the messy bun down to the scuffed sneakers, her gaze lingering on the canvas bag with a mixture of confusion and distaste. "This is the first-class check-in," Jessica said, her voice dripping with a sickly sweet condescension. "Economy and premium economy are down the hall, to your left. Look for the blue signs." "I know," Maya said, her voice calm. She was used to this. She didn't dress like money, so people assumed she didn't have it. Usually, she found it funny. Today, she was just tired. "I'm on the first-class manifest. Maya Sterling." She slid her passport across the marble counter. Jessica stared at the passport for a second before picking it up with 2 fingers, as if it were contaminated. She opened it, looked at the photo, looked at Maya, and then let out a sharp, incredulous breath. "Sterling?" Jessica repeated. She looked at her screen, typing in the name. "I have a Reginald Sterling in 1A. And A." She squinted. "Maya Sterling in 1B. That's me," Maya said. Jessica laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was a short, sharp bark of amusement. "Honey, look. I don't know who you're trying to impress or how you got this reservation code, but Seat 1B is a full-fare first-class suite. It costs $12,000 one way. Are you telling me you paid $12,000? "My father paid for it," Maya corrected gently. "Your father?" Jessica repeated, arching an eyebrow. She leaned forward, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Look, we get this a lot. Staff family members trying to snag an upgrade or sneak into the priority lane. If you're a non-rev passenger or on a buddy pass, you need to wait until final boarding. And you certainly don't check in here. You need to go to the standby desk. I'm not standby, Maya said, her patience thinning. And I'm not non-rev. Scan the passport, please. Jessica sighed, a long, theatrical exhalation that signaled to everyone nearby that she was dealing with an imbecile. She slapped the passport onto the scanner. The machine beeped a cheerful, green confirmation. Jessica frowned. She hit the refresh button. The green light persisted. Passenger. Sterling. Maya. Status. VVIP. Seat. 1B. The VVIP tag should have been a warning. In the airline industry, VVIP usually meant royalty, heads of state, or owners. But Jessica, blinded by her own bias, saw only a girl in a hoodie who didn't belong in her pristine workspace. Computer glitch, Jessica muttered. She picked up a phone. I'm going to have to call the gate agent to verify this manually. Step aside, please. You're holding up the line. Maya looked behind her. There was no one in line. There's no one behind me, Maya pointed out. Step aside. Jessica pointed a manicured finger to a spot on the floor, like she was commanding a dog. Maya took a deep breath. Count to 10, she told herself. Dad always says, never pull rank unless you have to. She stepped aside, leaning against a pillar, watching Jessica whisper aggressively into the phone. Maya pulled out her phone and texted her father. Having a bit of trouble at check-in. Meet you on the plane. She didn't want to bother him. He was dealing with the merger. She could handle a rude gate agent. She had handled worse. 30 minutes later, Maya had her boarding pass printed reluctantly by a confused colleague of Jessica's who had taken over while Jessica went on break and had made her way through the private security screening. She arrived at the Sterling Horizon First Class Lounge. It was an oasis of calm. Cream-colored leather armchairs, a grand piano playing soft jazz via a hidden speaker system, and a floor-to-ceiling view of the tarmac. Maya grabbed a bottle of water and sat in a corner, pulling out her sketchbook. She was an artist, a detail her father respected but didn't quite understand. She was sketching the wing of the Boeing 777 parked outside when a shadow fell over her paper. You really are persistent, aren't you? Maya looked up. It was Jessica. The flight attendant wasn't working the desk anymore. She was in her full flight gear, her roller bag in tow. She was obviously part of the crew for flight SH001. Excuse me? Maya asked, closing her sketchbook. I saw the system, Jessica hissed, her voice low so the businessmen nearby wouldn't hear. I don't know who you slept with or whose daddy you scammed to get that ticket, but don't think for a second I'm going to wait on you hand and foot. I know a charity case when I see one. Maya was stunned. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. I think you're making a mistake, Jessica. I'm just a passenger. Passengers respect the dress code, Jessica snapped, looking at Maya's sneakers. Sterling Horizon prides itself on elegance. We are the airline of the elite. You look like you just rolled out of a dorm room. I did, Maya said dryly. I graduated last month. Jessica rolled her eyes. Well, enjoy the lounge while you can. I'll be speaking to the captain about the dress code violation. We have standards for first class. No denim, no sneakers, no hoodies. It's in the fine print. You might find yourself back in row 45 before takeoff. With a swish of her navy blue skirt, Jessica turned and marched toward the crew briefing room. Maya sat there, her heart pounding a little faster. It wasn't fear, it was anger, a slow, burning anger. She knew the policy. The dress code applied to non-revenue passengers, staff flying for free. Paying customers in first class could wear pajamas if they wanted to, as long as they were decent. She pulled out her phone and opened the company directory app, a perk of being the owner's daughter. She searched for Jessica under the flight crew for SH001. Jessica Miller. Senior purser. 15 years service. 15 years. She should know better. The boarding announcement chimed. Sterling Horizon flight SH001 to London Heathrow is now boarding first class and diamond status passengers. Maya stood up, shouldered her bag, and walked toward the gate. She wasn't going to change her clothes. She wasn't going to make a scene. She was going to board the plane. At the gate door, the final barrier before the jet bridge, stood Jessica again, scanning passes. Beside her was a younger gate agent, looking nervous. When Maya approached, Jessica physically stepped in front of the scanner. I told you, Jessica said, loud enough for the people behind Maya to hear. A man in a suit behind Maya checked his watch, annoyed. You are not boarding this plane in that outfit. It's disrespectful to the other passengers. The dress code only applies to non-rev passengers, Maya stated firmly, her voice raising just enough to carry authority. I am a full-fare passenger. You cannot deny me boarding based on my attire. I can deny boarding for any reason I see fit if a passenger is being disruptive. Jessica countered, a smirk playing on her lips. And you are being disruptive, arguing with crew. I'm not arguing, I'm stating the policy, Maya said. Step aside, Jessica barked. Security. 2 TSA agents who had been standing nearby looked over, bored but obliged to intervene. What seems to be the problem, ma'am? One of the officers asked Jessica. This passenger is refusing to follow crew instructions and is becoming belligerent, Jessica lied smoothly. I need her removed from the line so we can board the actual VIPs. The man in the suit behind Maya stepped forward. Look, she's just trying to board. She hasn't done anything. Let's just go. Stay out of this, sir, Jessica warned him. Unless you want to be offloaded too. The man backed off, hands up. Maya looked at Jessica. You are making a very big mistake. The only mistake was someone issuing you a ticket. Jessica sneered. She grabbed Maya's boarding pass from her hand and ripped it in half. The sound of the tearing paper silenced the immediate area. There, Jessica said, tossing the confetti-like pieces into the trash. Now you have no ticket. Get out of my terminal. Maya stared at the pieces of paper in the bin. She felt a cold calm wash over her. It was the specific kind of calm her father got right before he fired a board member. Okay, Maya said softly. Okay, Jessica mocked. That's it? No crying? No, Maya said. She pulled out her phone. I'm just going to make a call. Call your daddy, Jessica laughed. Tell him to send a private jet. Oh wait, he probably can't afford one. Maya hit speed dial. It rang once. Maya? I'm just walking down the jet bridge now. Where are you? Reginald Sterling's voice came through clear. Dad, Maya said, her eyes locked on Jessica's smug face. I'm at the gate. The senior purser just ripped up my boarding pass and told me to get out of her terminal. She says I'm not fit for first class. There was a silence on the other end of the line. A terrifying, heavy silence. She did what? Reginald's voice dropped an octave. Put her on the phone. She won't talk to me, Dad. She's calling security to have me arrested for trespassing. Stay right there, Reginald said. I'm coming back up. Maya hung up. She looked at Jessica. He's coming. Jessica scoffed. Who? The police? Good. No, Maya said. The owner. Jessica froze. The owner of what? The airline, Maya said. My father? For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Jessica's eyes. But she shook it off. Yeah, right. And my dad is the King of England. The door from the jet bridge, the one passengers used to get off the plane, suddenly flew open. The silence that descended upon gate B12 was absolute. It wasn't the quiet of an empty room. It was the suffocating vacuum that precedes an explosion. The heavy steel door of the jet bridge shuddered against the wall, its pneumatic hinge groaning in protest at the force with which it had been opened. Framed in the doorway stood Reginald Sterling. He was a mountain of a man, 6'4", with broad shoulders that strained the fabric of his bespoke charcoal suit. His hair was a salt and pepper iron gray, cut close, and his beard was trimmed to razor-sharp perfection. But it was his eyes dark, piercing, and currently burning with a controlled inferno that commanded the room. He didn't look like a businessman. He looked like a general arriving at a battlefield where his troops were losing. Jessica, however, was so entrenched in her own narrative of superiority that she missed the visual cues. She saw a wealthy man, yes. She saw a VIP passenger, certainly. But she did not see her employer. To her, Reginald Sterling was a mythical signature on a paycheck, a face in a quarterly newsletter she deleted without reading. She didn't recognize him in 3 dimensions. Sir, Jessica said, her voice shifting instantly from shrill harpy to practiced subservience. She smoothed her skirt, offering a dazzling, fake smile. I apologize for the disturbance. We have a security situation with a standby passenger refusing to leave the area. If you could just return to your seat, I'll have the police handle this trash immediately. She gestured dismissively toward Maya, who was leaning against the podium, her face unreadable. Reginald didn't blink. He didn't look at Jessica. He walked past her, his heavy footsteps echoing on the linoleum, and stopped directly in front of Maya. He looked at the ripped pieces of the boarding pass in the trash bin, then at his daughter's tired face. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice low and rumbling. "I'm fine, Dad," Maya said, her voice steady but quiet. "Just humiliated." Reginald turned slowly to face Jessica. The air in the terminal seemed to drop 10 degrees. The other passengers, the businessman in the suit, a family of 4, an elderly couple, were watching with bated breath. "Dad?" Jessica repeated the word, a nervous titter escaping her lips. She looked between the impeccably dressed older man and the girl in the thrift store hoodie. The cognitive dissonance was short-circuiting her brain. "Sir, surely you're joking. This girl is a stowaway. She's been harassing the staff." "Harassing?" Reginald repeated, tasting the word like spoiled milk. He took a step toward Jessica. She instinctively took a step back, bumping into the scanner desk. "She claimed," Jessica stammered, her confidence beginning to fracture like thin ice. "She claimed to have a ticket for 1B. She claimed to be a Sterling. Obviously, it's identity theft. I was protecting the airline's integrity." "You were protecting the airline's integrity by destroying a valid boarding pass?" Reginald asked. He reached into his inner pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. He didn't produce a credit card. He produced a black, metal card with the gold Sterling Horizon crest embossed on it. It was the master identification card, issued only to the board of directors. He held it up. "My name is Reginald Sterling, founder, CEO, majority shareholder. And the trash you just tried to have arrested is Maya Sterling, my daughter and the heir to everything you see around you, including the plane you are scheduled to work on." The color drained from Jessica's face so fast it looked painful. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. "Mr. Sterling, I didn't know. The system." She didn't look. "She didn't look like what?" Reginald interrupted, his voice rising just enough to silence the murmurs of the crowd. "She didn't look rich enough for you? Is that Sterling Horizon policy now? Do we weigh wallets at the gate? Do we judge human dignity by the brand of their shoes?" Jessica was trembling now. "No, sir. Of course not. It was a misunderstanding. She was rude. She caused a scene." "Liar," a voice called out. Mr. Henderson, the businessman in the suit behind Maya, stepped forward. "I've been standing here for 20 minutes. The young lady was perfectly polite. You were the one who was abusive. You mocked her clothes, you refused to look at her passport, and you tore up her ticket for no reason other than you didn't like her face." Jessica glared at Mr. Henderson, but the support for him was instant. "I saw it too," a woman from the back of the line shouted. "She was awful to that girl." Reginald nodded at Mr. Henderson in thanks, then turned his gaze back to Jessica. It was a look of pure disappointment. 15 years, Miss Miller," Reginald said, reading her name tag. "I know your tenure. You're a senior purser. You are supposed to be the example. The gold standard." "I am," Jessica pleaded, tears welling up, tears of fear, not remorse. "I am a good employee. I have a perfect record. Please, Mr. Sterling, don't fire me. I have a mortgage. I just made a mistake. I'll apologize. I'll get on my knees right now." She actually started to lower herself, creating a spectacle that made Maya cringe. "Get up," Reginald commanded, disgusted. "Have some dignity." Jessica scrambled back up. "Am I fired?" Reginald looked at her, then at the plane, then at his daughter. A strange, calculating look crossed his face. He was a businessman, and he knew that firing her right here, right now, would delay the flight. They would have to find a replacement purser, delay takeoff by 2 hours, and miss their slot at Heathrow. It would cost the airline $50,000 in fines and fees. Furthermore, he wanted to see something. He wanted to see if she was capable of humility, or if this rot went deeper. "No," Reginald said. "You're not fired. Not yet." Jessica let out a sob of relief. "Thank you, sir. Thank you. You won't regret it." "Save your thanks," Reginald said coldly. "You are the senior purser for this flight. We are legally required to have a specific number of crew to take off. If I fire you now, I inconvenience 200 other people. And unlike you, I care about my customers." He gestured to the gate agent, the young man who had been terrified into silence. "Print my daughter a new boarding pass." Immediately, the young man scrambled to type, his fingers flying. The printer whirred. Reginald took the fresh pass and handed it to Maya. "You will work this flight, Miss Miller. You will serve the first-class cabin. You will serve me. And you will serve Maya." Jessica nodded frantically. "Yes, sir. I will give her the best service of her life, I promise." "I don't want best service," Reginald said, leaning in close. "I want you to do your job exactly as the manual dictates. I will be watching every move you make, every pour of wine, every safety check, every smile. If you step one toe out of line, if you so much as roll your eyes, you will be terminated before the wheels touch the ground in London. Do you understand?" "Yes," Jessica whispered. "Yes, I understand." "Good," Reginald straightened up. "Board the passengers. We have a schedule to keep." He offered his arm to Maya. "Shall we, my dear?" Maya took her father's arm, casting one last look at Jessica. The flight attendant looked like she had just gone 10 rounds with a heavyweight boxer. But in Jessica's eyes, Maya didn't see true repentance. She saw fear, yes, but buried deep beneath it, she saw a flicker of resentment, a spark of hatred. Jessica Miller wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. "Ready for a long flight?" Maya asked her father as they walked down the jet bridge. "It's going to be a very long flight for Miss Miller," Reginald murmured. "Let's see if she cracks." The Boeing 777-300ER was a masterpiece of engineering, and the first-class cabin of Sterling Horizon was its crown jewel. There were only 8 suites, arranged in a 1-2-1 configuration. Each suite featured sliding privacy doors, a lie-flat bed, and a 32-inch 4K screen. Maya settled into 1B. The leather was cool and smelled of expensive conditioner. To her left, the partition was lowered, connecting her suite with her father's in 1A. The atmosphere in the cabin, however, was thick with tension. The other passengers had boarded, including Mr. Henderson, who gave Maya a supportive nod from seat 2A. But the air felt charged, like the sky before a thunderstorm. Jessica was in the galley, ostensibly preparing the pre-departure beverages. But Maya could hear the clattering of glass. It was too loud, too frantic. Working alongside Jessica was a younger flight attendant named Sarah. Sarah was new. Maya could tell by the slightly anxious way she double-checked the manifest. Sarah had brown hair tied in a neat ponytail and a genuine, kind face. "Champagne, Miss Sterling?" Maya looked up. It wasn't Jessica. It was Sarah, holding a tray with a crystal flute and a warm, damp towel on a silver plate. "Thank you, Sarah," Maya said, glancing at the name tag. "Just water for now, please." "Of course," Sarah smiled. "And for you, Mr. Sterling?" "I'll take the scotch," Reginald said, not looking up from his iPad. "Neat. Right away, sir." Sarah retreated to the galley. Through the slightly parted curtain, Maya could hear the hushed, venomous whisper of Jessica. "Stop trembling, you idiot," Jessica hissed at Sarah, though Sarah wasn't the one trembling. "They're just passengers. Don't look them in the eye. Just drop the drinks and get back here. We need to prep for the safety demo." "I was just serving them," Sarah whispered back, confused. "Mr. Sterling seems nice." "Nice?" Jessica's voice was a jagged edge. "He's a monster, and that girl is a spoiled brat who probably whined to daddy to get me in trouble. Watch your back, Sarah. These people look for reasons to fire us. It's a power trip." Maya shook her head. Even now, Jessica was trying to poison the well. She was incapable of taking responsibility. A moment later, Jessica emerged. She had composed herself, but the mask was slipping. Her foundation looked a little cakey around the creases of her frown lines, and her smile didn't reach her eyes. It was a rictus of terror. She approached Maya's suite, holding a basket of premium amenity kits, leather pouches filled with Bulgari skincare products. "Miss Sterling," Jessica said, her voice overly loud and sticky sweet. "Our signature amenity kit. I took the liberty of adding an extra moisturizer for you." She placed the kit on the side table. Her hand brushed Maya's arm, and Maya flinched slightly. Jessica withdrew as if burned. "Is there a problem?" Jessica asked, loud enough for Reginald to hear. "I'm just trying to ensure your comfort." "It's fine," Maya said softly. "Thank you, Jessica." "You're welcome," Jessica said. She lingered for a second too long. "I hope you enjoy the flight. It's a long way to London, lots of time." It sounded less like a wish and more like a threat. The plane pushed back from the gate. The safety video played. Reginald's face appeared on the screen, giving the introduction. A surreal experience for Maya as she sat next to the real man. The engines roared to life, and soon they were climbing over the Atlantic. Once the seatbelt sign chimed off, the service began in earnest. This was the danger zone. A 7-hour flight meant a multi-course dinner service, turn-down service, and constant interaction. Jessica was working the aisle. She moved with a robotic efficiency, but her movements were jerky. She poured wine for Mr. Henderson, filling the glass a little too high, nearly spilling it. "Whoops," Jessica said, a nervous laugh escaping. "Turbulence." The plane was perfectly steady. She came to Maya's table. "Dinner orders. We have the lobster thermidor, or the braised short rib." "I'll have the pasta option actually," Maya said. She was a vegetarian, something usually noted in her profile. Jessica blinked. "We don't have a pasta option loaded in first. We only have the lobster and the beef." "I pre-ordered the vegetarian meal," Maya said patiently. "It should be in the system." Jessica tapped her tablet. She frowned. "I don't see it. You must have forgotten to select it when you acquired your ticket." "I didn't forget," Maya said. "Can you check with the economy galley? They usually have a vegetarian lasagna." Jessica looked aghast. "You want me to bring an economy meal into first class? Mr. Sterling, surely you don't want your daughter eating microwave slop?" Reginald looked up from his work. He took off his reading glasses. "The slop, as you call it, is prepared by the same catering company that makes the lobster, Jessica. And if my daughter wants the pasta, you will find her the pasta. If you have to cook it yourself..." Jessica's jaw tightened. "I will see what I can find." She stormed off to the galley. Minutes passed. Maya pulled out her sketchbook again. She was drawing Jessica. Not a caricature, but a realistic portrait. She wanted to capture the anxiety in the woman's posture, the tragedy of someone so consumed by status that they lost their humanity. Suddenly, a shatter. The sound of breaking glass erupted from the galley. Then, Jessica's voice, screeching. "Oh my God! Look what you did!" Maya and Reginald exchanged a look. Reginald unbuckled his seatbelt immediately. They stood up and went to the galley curtain. Inside, the floor was covered in broken glass and a puddle of expensive red wine. Sarah was on her knees, trying to pick up the shards with a napkin. Her uniform was stained purple. Jessica was standing over her, pointing a finger. "She dropped the bottle," Jessica shouted as soon as she saw Reginald. "I told her to be careful. She's clumsy. She just destroyed a $300 bottle of vintage Bordeaux." Sarah looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't. You bumped me." "I did no such thing," Jessica gasped, clutching her pearls. "Mr. Sterling, this girl is incompetent. She's a liability. She nearly threw red wine on your suit." Reginald looked at the scene. He looked at the wine spattered on the cabinets. The trajectory was wrong. If Sarah had dropped the bottle while opening it or pouring it, the splash pattern would be on the floor and her shoes. But the wine was sprayed across the opposite wall, and Sarah's back was soaked. Someone had knocked the bottle out of her hand from behind, or thrown it. Reginald stepped into the small galley. The space was cramped. He loomed over both of them. "Sarah, stand up," he said gently. Sarah stood, shaking, wine dripping from her skirt. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll pay for it. Please don't fire me. This is my dream job." "You aren't paying for anything," Reginald said. He turned to Jessica. Jessica was breathing hard, her eyes darting around. "I'll write up the incident report, sir." "Lack of coordination. It's a training issue." "It's a character issue," Reginald said, "but not hers." "Excuse me?" Jessica bristled. "I have cameras in the galley, Jessica," Reginald lied. He didn't. Not inside the galleys, privacy unions forbade it. But Jessica didn't know that. She knew he owned the planes. She knew he was powerful. Jessica's face went white. Did you push her?" Reginald asked. The silence stretched, thin and agonizing. "It was an accident," Jessica whispered, her voice barely audible. "I turned around too fast. I didn't mean to." "You did it because you're stressed," Reginald said, his voice hard. "And you wanted to blame the rookie to make yourself look better. Because you think if you show me how incompetent everyone else is, I'll forget about your behavior at the gate." Reginald grabbed a roll of paper towels. He handed them to Jessica. "Clean it up," he ordered. "Me?" Jessica asked. "But I'm the senior purser. Sarah is junior. Cleaning is. Clean it up, Reginald roared. Jessica dropped to her knees. She began wiping the floor, the glass cutting slightly into her manicured fingers. She wiped around Sarah's shoes. Sarah, Reginald said, go to the crew rest and change your uniform. Take a break. Maya and I will manage. But who will serve dinner? Sarah asked. Jessica will, Reginald said, watching the woman on the floor. Once she's finished cleaning up her mess, as Jessica scrubbed the sticky floor, humiliation radiating off her like heat waves, Maya felt a pang of pity. But then she remembered the look in Jessica's eyes at the gate, the absolute certainty that she was better than Maya. Jessica looked up from the floor, and for a split second, Maya saw it again. Jessica wasn't learning a lesson. She was plotting. She was looking at Maya's open bag on the seat in the cabin. Jessica's eyes lingered on something sticking out of Maya's bag. A small, prescription pill bottle. A twisted idea began to form in Jessica's desperate, broken mind. If she could prove Maya was a drug addict, a danger to the flight, then maybe, just maybe, the father would turn on the daughter. Jessica knew rich kids. They were always on something. She wiped the last of the wine, a plan forming. It was a Hail Mary, a suicide mission, but Jessica Miller was past the point of rationality. She was going to bring down the house. The cabin lights had been dimmed to a soothing twilight blue, designed to mimic the setting sun and lull passengers into a rhythmic slumber. At 35,000 feet, somewhere over the dark, churning expanse of the North Atlantic, the world inside Sterling Horizon Flight SH-001 felt hermetically sealed. It was a vacuum of luxury, silent save for the hum of the engines and the soft clink of silverware. Maya had finished her meal, a surprisingly delicious mushroom ravioli that Sarah had managed to procure from the premium economy supply, plated beautifully on first-class china. Reginald was asleep, his seat reclined into a fully flat bed, the soft duvet pulled up to his chin. The stress of the merger and the confrontation at the gate had finally collected its toll, and he snored softly, a vulnerable sound for a man who commanded billions. Maya, however, was wide awake. She felt a phantom itch on her skin, the lingering residue of Jessica's hostility. She needed to wash her face. She grabbed her amenity kit and headed toward the lavatory at the front of the cabin. "Excuse me," Maya whispered as she passed the galley. Jessica was there, leaning against the counter, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, her eyes glassy and hard. She didn't respond, just tracked Maya's movement like a predator watching prey cross a clearing. The moment the lavatory door clicked shut and the occupied light illuminated, Jessica moved. She didn't walk, she prowled. She slipped into the aisle, her footsteps silent on the thick wool carpet. She reached seat 1B, Maya's suite. The privacy partition was down. Reginald was asleep in 1A. The cabin was dark. Jessica's heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. This was it, the point of no return. She reached into Maya's open canvas bag, her hand trembling slightly. Her fingers brushed against a sketchbook, a wallet, and then there it was. The orange plastic cylinder. She pulled it out. Prescription. Hydrocodone acetaminophen. Jessica's eyes widened. Painkillers. Opioids. It didn't matter what they were actually for. Maybe a dental surgery, maybe a back injury. To Jessica, they were ammunition. She checked the date. It was recent. The name on the bottle was Maya Sterling. But Jessica didn't just want to find drugs. She needed a crisis. She needed Maya to be a danger. Quickly, Jessica uncapped the bottle. She took 2 of the pills and crushed them into a fine powder inside a napkin she had in her pocket. Then, she took the bottle and hid it in her own apron pocket. She moved to the galley, her mind racing with a fabricated narrative. She grabbed a glass of water and dissolved the crushed powder into it, swirling it until it was cloudy. Then, she poured the mixture onto a small serving tray, letting it pool and dry slightly, making it look like residue. She picked up the interphone and dialed the cockpit. "Captain." Jessica's voice was a masterclass in feigned panic. "We have a situation in first class. A medical... No, a security issue. It's the passenger in 1B. I think she's overdosing, and she's becoming aggressive." "Aggressive?" Captain Evans' voice crackled back, calm but alert. "The owner's daughter?" "She's high, Captain," Jessica lied, the words tasting like victory. "I found a bottle of opioids. Empty. She's been in the bathroom for 10 minutes. I heard banging. I'm worried she's going to damage the aircraft or hurt Mr. Sterling. I'm sending the relief pilot back to assess, Evans said. Keep her contained. Do not engage unless necessary. Roger that. Jessica hung up. She turned around just as the lavatory door opened. Maya stepped out, fresh-faced and unsuspecting. She smiled tentatively at Sarah, who was organizing tea bags in the corner. Get back in your seat, Jessica barked, shattering the cabin's silence. Maya froze. What? I said, sit down, Jessica screamed, pointing a finger. Don't you come near me. Stay away from the cockpit. Reginald woke with a start. Mr. Henderson in 2A sat up, removing his noise-canceling headphones. The entire cabin was suddenly awake. What is going on? Reginald demanded, rubbing his eyes, his voice thick with sleep. Dad, I don't know, Maya said, her hands raised in a placating gesture. I just came out of the bathroom. She's intoxicated, sir, Jessica yelled, backing away dramatically as if Maya were wielding a knife. Look at her eyes. She's on something. She tried to push past me to get to the flight deck. That is a lie, Maya shouted, the injustice finally breaking her composure. I haven't touched you. I found these in her bag. Jessica pulled the pill bottle from her apron, a tactical error she hadn't considered in her adrenaline haze. Hydrocodone. The bottle was full when we took off, and now it's half empty. She's popping them like candy, Sarah gasped. Jessica, you went through her bag? I was performing a security sweep, Jessica countered. And look, she pointed to the tray with the dissolved residue she had concocted. She was crushing them on the service tray. She's snorting them in the cabin. The relief pilot, a tall man named First Officer Lewis, emerged from the cockpit, his face stern. What is the problem here? Lewis demanded. She's a drug addict, Jessica sneered, pointing at Maya. She's a safety risk. I want her restrained. I want the zip ties. Now. Maya stood in the aisle, wearing her oversized hoodie, looking small against the accusation. But she didn't cry. She looked at her father. Reginald stared at the pill bottle in Jessica's hand. He looked at the residue on the tray. Then he looked at Jessica. His face didn't show anger anymore. It showed something far worse. Total, absolute clarity. Give me the bottle, Reginald said softly. I can't do that, sir, Jessica said, clutching the orange bottle like a holy relic. This is evidence. It has to be turned over to the authorities in London. I said. Reginald stood up, his height filling the cabin. Give me the bottle. He snatched it from her hand before she could react. He read the label. He looked at the doctor's name. Dr. Eris Thorne. D.S. These were prescribed to Maya last week, Reginald announced to the cabin, his voice projecting clearly. For her wisdom teeth removal. She hasn't taken a single one because she prefers ibuprofen. The bottle is full. He shook the bottle. It rattled. A loud, full rattle. He opened it and poured the contents into his hand. He counted them quickly. 20 pills. The prescription is for 20. There are 18 here. He looked at the tray with the white residue. Then he looked at Jessica. If she took 18 pills, Miss Miller, she wouldn't be standing here arguing with you. She would be dead. Jessica's mouth went dry. She must have had another bottle. She hid it. And you claim she tried to breach the cockpit? First Officer Lewis asked, looking skeptical. Yes, she lunged at me, Jessica cried, doubling down. She's violent. You have to believe me. I'm the senior purser. Actually, a deep voice rumbled from seat 2A. Mr. Henderson stood up. He wasn't just a businessman. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a badge, hanging it around his neck. Federal Air Marshal. The color didn't just drain from Jessica's face. It vanished, leaving her looking gray and corpse-like. I've been watching the reflection in my monitor since the lights went down, Henderson said, his voice calm and authoritative. The young lady went to the restroom. You, Miss Miller, waited until the door was locked. You went through her bag. You stole that bottle. You went to the galley, crushed something up, and smeared it on the tray. Then you called the cockpit. When Miss Sterling exited the lavatory, she did not lunge. She did not speak. You screamed at her, unprovoked. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush a lung. Jessica looked around the cabin. Every pair of eyes, Reginald, Maya, Sarah, First Officer Lewis, and the Federal Air Marshal was fixed on her. The web of lies she had spun was not just broken, it was strangling her. Jessica stammered. I saw. I thought. You framed a passenger, Henderson said, stepping into the aisle. You falsified a security threat, you tampered with a passenger's personal property, and you attempted to incite panic aboard a commercial aircraft. I was trying to protect the flight, Jessica shrieked, her composure shattering completely. She doesn't belong here. Look at her. She's trash. She's ruining the image of the airline. She pointed a trembling finger at Maya. You think you're so special because your daddy bought the plane? You're nothing. You're just a... That's enough. Reginald's voice was like a gavel strike. He turned to First Officer Lewis. Officer, I believe we have a disruptive individual who poses a threat to the safety of this flight. Is that correct? Affirmative, Mr. Sterling, Lewis said. Then I suggest we follow protocol, Reginald said. Lewis nodded. He turned to Jessica. Miss Miller, by the authority of the captain, you are relieved of duty immediately. You are to take a seat in the rear crew rest area. You are not to speak to any passengers or crew. If you resist, Marshal Henderson will restrain you. You can't do this, Jessica screamed. I've given 15 years to this company. I am the victim here. Sarah, Reginald said, ignoring Jessica entirely, please escort Miss Miller to the back and bring the zip ties, just in case. Sarah, pale but determined, stepped forward. Come on, Jessica. Don't make it worse. Jessica looked at Sarah, the rookie she had bullied, the girl she had blamed for the wine. Sarah's eyes held no pity, only professional resolve. Defeated, Jessica slumped. The fight went out of her. She walked down the long aisle of the plane, past the business class passengers who craned their necks to watch, past the premium economy, all the way to the very last row of economy class. As she sat in the cramped seat near the toilets, the smell of the chemical disinfectant filling her nose, the irony was not lost on her. She was in the worst seat on the plane. Back in first class, Reginald turned to the air marshal. Thank you, Agent Henderson. I apologize for the disturbance. Just doing my job, Mr. Sterling, Henderson said, putting his badge away. Though I admit, that was more drama than I usually get on a transatlantic. Reginald turned to Maya. She was sitting on the ottoman of his suite, looking at her hands. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered. Reginald sat down next to her and wrapped a massive arm around her shoulders. Sorry? Maya, you handled yourself with more grace than most of my board of directors. You didn't scream. You didn't use my name to bully her back. You stood your ground. He kissed the top of her head. You are a true Sterling, and don't you ever let anyone tell you otherwise because of what you wear or how you look. Maya leaned into him. Can we just watch a movie now? Reginald chuckled. Yes, let's watch a movie. The descent into London Heathrow was smooth, the gray clouds parting to reveal the sprawling green and gray patchwork of the English countryside. For most passengers, it was the end of a journey. For Jessica Miller, it was the end of a life. When the seatbelt sign turned off at the gate, the first-class passengers did not move. The captain had made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. Police are boarding the aircraft to remove a disruptive individual. In the back of the plane, Jessica squeezed her eyes shut. Maybe she could explain. Maybe she could say it was a medical episode. A panic attack. The rear doors did not open, the front doors did. 4 officers from the Metropolitan Police entered the aircraft. They were led by Captain Evans and Reginald Sterling. They walked the entire length of the plane. It was a long walk. Every passenger watched. Jessica felt every gaze like a physical blow. When they reached row 65, the officers stopped. Jessica Miller? The lead officer asked. Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. It was a misunderstanding. You are under arrest, the officer said, pulling out handcuffs. Suspicion of theft, criminal damage, and endangering the safety of an aircraft. You have the right to remain silent. As they marched her off the plane, she had to walk past Maya one last time. Maya was standing by the exit, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She didn't look triumphant. She didn't smirk. She just looked at Jessica with a mixture of sadness and pity. That look hurt Jessica more than any insult could have. It was the look one gives to something broken that cannot be fixed. 3 days later, the boardroom of Sterling Horizon's London headquarters was a fortress of glass and steel. The entire executive team was present. Reginald Sterling sat at the head of the table. The incident on SH-001 has been dealt with, Reginald said, his voice echoing in the room. Miss Miller has been terminated with cause. She is facing criminal charges. She will never work in aviation again. I have personally ensured that her conduct record is shared with every major carrier. He paused, looking around the table. But this is not just about one rotten apple. This is about the culture that allowed her to think she could get away with it. She judged a passenger by their clothes. She assumed that luxury meant exclusion. That is not who we are. He pressed a button on the remote. A new slide appeared on the screen. It was a photo of Maya, taken by a candid photographer years ago, wearing a hoodie and feeding a stray dog. This, Reginald said, is the future of Sterling Horizon. The executives looked confused. I am announcing a new policy, Reginald continued. Effective immediately, we are implementing the Maya standard. All crew members will undergo mandatory bias training, and we are removing the dress code policy for paying passengers. If someone pays for a seat, they are our guest. Whether they wear a tuxedo or a tracksuit, he pointed to the door. Maya walked in. She was wearing a blazer today, but she still wore her sneakers. Maya will be heading our new Customer Experience and Inclusivity Division, Reginald announced. She will be reporting directly to me. Her job is to ensure that no one ever feels the way she was made to feel on that flight. The room applauded. It was polite at first, then genuine. Maya stepped up to the microphone. She looked at her father, then at the executives. Luxury isn't about champagne or gold cards, Maya said, her voice steady. Luxury is how you treat people when you think no one is watching. It's about kindness. And at Sterling Horizon, kindness is going to be our most expensive commodity. Jessica Miller pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of public disorder to avoid jail time, but her career was over. The last anyone heard, she was working the night shift at a toll booth on a lonely stretch of highway, watching cars fly by, going places she could no longer go. Maya Sterling finished her gap year, but she didn't go back to being just a student. She transformed the airline. Under her guidance, Sterling Horizon became the highest-rated airline in the world for customer satisfaction. And every time she flew, Maya still wore her hoodie. She still sat in 1B. And she always brought a bag of chocolates for the crew because she knew that for every Jessica, there were 100 Sarahs working hard, just waiting for a chance to shine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you never judge a book by its cover or a passenger by their hoodie. Jessica learned the hard way that the broke college student you're mocking might just be the one signing your paycheck. It's a brutal lesson in karma. When you try to tear someone down to make yourself feel tall, you usually end up being the one on your knees cleaning up the mess. What would you have done if you were in Maya's shoes? Would you have fired Jessica on the spot, or let her sweat it out for 7 hours like Reginald did? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of instant karma and justice, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. We post new drama every single day. Thanks for watching, and remember, be kind, because you never know who you're talking to.